word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're going to be talking about New Mutants, number 22. By Vita Ayala and Rod Rice. And in this video, what we're going to be talking about today is why the Shadow King has been so active in trying to, quotey fingers, train and mentor these younger mutants on the island. What is the end game here? For the longest time, we thought that it was about finding a new host, a more powerful host for the Shadow King entity. But apparently, it's actually a much more altruistic reason. We're going to talk about all that and a lot more right now. But first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream every Saturday, so that way you don't miss out on anything. Also, if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button and share the video all over the internet with all your friends because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's talk about New Mutants number 22. So once again, I'm going to bring this up. We've talked about this multiple times. And what is the Shadow King's end game here? What is Amal Farouk up to? Is he trying to find a new host for the Shadow King? Is the Shadow King going into business for himself? Is he trying to manipulate Cosmar into becoming his next host? What is the end game here for this guy, this shady individual on Krakoa? And I gotta admit, I was really impressed to learn that it's not quite as sinister as what we initially thought it was. It is technically a very altruistic reason that he's doing what he's doing, and the reason why is because he fears that Krakoa is not long for this Earth. We see this when initially thinking that he's attacking the New Mutants with psychic visions, that he's trying to make them see their greatest fears, when in fact, that's actually not the case. He's showing them a greatest hits of, some of the things that they dealt with throughout their history, namely things like the Brood and Belasco and AIM and all these other entities, but also he's showing them what's very likely to happen in the near future. Because as Amal Farouk points out, empires don't last. They usually stand for a good while and then eventually they crumble under their own weight. He even uses Constantinople as an example in this situation. And for those who need a history lesson, this was considered to be the official effective end of the Roman Empire. This is something that goes all the way back to 27 BC. The Roman Empire in and of itself lasted roughly 1500 years. Constantinople's fall basically ended an entire empire. And that's what Amal Farouk is afraid of. He's afraid that this isn't just something that might happen. He's afraid this is something that will happen. Even Mirage has to point out that the Shadow King is not trying to assault them with their own fears, that these are his own fears, and he is quite certain that this is going to come to pass. He feels like Charles and Magneto are honestly trying to do the best thing possible, but at the same time, they're hamstringing the whole operation. Yes, they created a society that should not exist. Yes, they created something that on paper is the most powerful mutant kind has ever become in any timeline that wasn't an alternate one. However, mutant kind is not being allowed to reach their true potential. And this is where we kind of get a dueling of the ideologies here, where Shadow King feels like mutants should actually accept their place as predators among their prey, taking their place as the most dominant species on the planet. Something that we've actually heard echoed by characters like Namor the Submariner in House of X and Powers of 10, that mutants should actually be the ruling body of the entire planet. But the New Mutants have another way of seeing things, that yes, if we become what Amal Farouk thinks they should be, becoming predators over prey, all it does is justify why organizations like Xeno, Orcus, the Right, and other such entities that have been trying to attack the mutants and Krakoa as a whole, all it does is justify them and give them even more reason to want to hate them. That at the same time, while yes, we are the most powerful species, we are the most dominant species, we're even fated to become the most dominant species once human birth rates start dropping off. But Krakoa is not about ruling anyone, it's about breaking the cycle. All that aside, both sides are making very, very strong points. Amal Farouk is not wrong about the fact that Krakoa is not long for this earth, that eventually, even if it does last as long as the Roman Empire, which it won't, but even if it did, eventually it's going to fall. It can't last forever. Eventually it will crumble under its own weight, and even worse yet, when that time comes, it's going to be because of humanity. And not just humanity, but when Krakoa begins to falter, it's heavily hinted at that the Brood will be involved as well, that the Brood will eventually come after the mutants, that Belasco and his demon horde will come after them. Orcus will unleash the full might of their Sentinel army, as well as Nimrod itself on the mutants, that it is literally only a matter of time before these things happen. Amal Farouk's fears are not unwarranted. He is honestly probably incredibly right, and I think Vita Ayala just showed us how it's all going to end, at least a way that it could. On the other hand, the New Mutants, they're not wrong either. Krakoa is about breaking the cycle. It is about changing the game, changing the way that mutants engage with one another as well as other humans, not consistently fighting and going to war with a people that you shouldn't even be bothered with, that creating this civilization, lifting up mutant kind and making it one of the greatest societies ever created, that is honestly the best way to go about this. Creating a safe space for mutant kind, as well as a place that can be admired and loved. On the flip side of this, they're both wrong. Yes, Amal Farouk is incredibly wrong about how Krakoa should handle things. The New Mutants are right. Being a predator only makes the prey resent the predator. Humanity already hates mutants, why give them even more reason to do so? Lording your power over others is basically leaning into old habits, which is what the Shadow King is used to. Honestly, leaning into that mentality would actually justify all those hot takes people used to have and still have about the X-Men being bad guys now since House of X, an opinion that is incredibly wrong. However, the New Mutants, they're wrong too. Krakoa is not a safe place, and it's not for everyone. In all honesty, Krakoa is probably somewhere closer to the middle between what Amal Farouk and the New Mutants think Krakoa is. And that's not a good thing either, because it's half measures. And half measures, well, they're not particularly useful. Not to say that either side's full measures are any better either. But in the words of Parks and Rec's Ron Swanson, never half-ass two things. Whole-ass one thing, even if it's the bad thing. But here's the trick with this. Neither side has to pick that one argument. There is a better way, and I think they're gonna find it. I'm not gonna say that I'm the guy who has all the answers, but I think that Krakoa could be a better place for all mutants if they embrace transparency. And that's one of the biggest issues with Krakoa. It's secrets. It's the biggest issue with most things superhero related. Think about it. It's even something that plagues the real world itself. Secrets. When people keep secrets from one another, when people don't talk, when people don't hold an open dialogue with one another, all it does is breed contempt. We've seen this in the pages of not just New Mutants, but even in other X-Men spin-off titles. We've seen where people keeping secrets from one another has done nothing but harm one side or another, if not the whole thing. The secrecy behind Resurrection, the secrecy behind the rules regarding Resurrection, those alone have been a major point of contention. Hell, the people on Krakoa not explaining to Gabby that if she were to die, she has nothing to worry about. It's kind of been a major story arc since Vita Ayala took over this whole thing. We also can't forget about the secrets that Beast has been keeping over on the X-Force side of things, the secrets that Emma Frost has been keeping herself, one that she just recently laid bare in Marauders that has kind of changed the dynamic between herself and Sebastian Shaw. The secret about Lord Chantel's actual death and her actually not being dead. Secrets hurt, and that is one of the first things that Krakoa is going to have to get rid of if it wants to thrive. Get rid of the secrecy, get rid of all the illusions. The Quiet Council is honestly something that should not be, because not only are they keeping secrets from Krakoa, they're keeping secrets from one another. Think about it. Sinister sits on the Quiet Council, yet he has a secret clone farm on Murder World that he's not telling anybody about, and had Emma Frost not been spying on him, he'd still have it to this very day. All that aside, even though Amal Farouk was more than willing to sit down and actually have dialogue with the New Mutants, it's not something that he's willing to do anymore, because he realizes they won't see the reason. And if they won't see the reason, he will make them see to reason. using his psionic abilities, manipulating their minds, and making them live psychically through the fall of Krakoa, no matter how many times it takes. He's making them face off against the Sentinels. He's making them face off against the Brood. He's making them face off with every enemy imaginable that will come for Krakoa's head when the time is right. Something that I also wonder about that's happening in this, and this is even stated in one of the data pages, the strategies and tactics section, where it's going on about synergies. The demonstrations being listed here, this is basically a logbook of all of the training sessions that the New Mutants have had with one another since Vita Yala took over. And something tells me this logbook is actually going to pay dividends in exactly explaining how the New Mutants are going to get out of the situation that they're in right now. And it seems like the answer is clear, that the New Mutants work better when they work together, and that maybe they've been practicing something that is going to allow them to overcome the Shadow King. There's even a mention of an anomaly. Now, it could be multiple things. It could either be the character Warlock inserting himself into the situation, a character who is not around at the moment, or maybe it could be Karma's brother, Tran. Who knows? We haven't really seen him since he's been resurrected. Either way, whatever it is, they have an ace up their sleeve that they can use against the Shadow King. The other thing that's going on in this book, and while it is a very important thing, I don't think it's quite as important as what is going on with the story as a whole, is that Cosmar, Rainboy, Anoli, and No Girl, they seek to apologize to Scout for how they acted towards her. This is something that's technically been a long time coming, and I love the fact that they cop to being wrong about the whole thing. They admit, yeah, we screwed up. We did you dirty. And more importantly, you were right all along, and that they promised they're not going to hang out with or even talk to the Shadow King anymore. And everything seems to be all right. There's even some discussion with Gabby just by herself, kind of talking to herself about whether or not she should even go with them when they go to tell the Shadow King that they're not going to work with him anymore. It's all really interesting stuff. There's even a little bit of a data page regarding whether or not Amal Farouk has the ability to fight back against the Shadow King, and it's one of those things that kind of gives us a little bit of hope that maybe Amal Farouk can actually fight back against the Shadow King's influence, or maybe just a hint that maybe he might before this is all said and done. All that aside, I thought this was really interesting. The juxtaposition of philosophies between Amal Farouk and the New Mutants, the fact that both sides are right and wrong at the same time. And I don't know, who knows, maybe eventually at some point Amal Farouk and the New Mutants can see eye to eye, though I'm pretty sure it's going to take a lot of punching and swinging first before they decide to sit down and actually have that conversation. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share it all over the internet with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to the New Mutants and the Shadow King. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about New Mutants number 22. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.